Hey you, is Starfinder worth it?
Why don't you come in and I'll tell you.
Welcome to Encounter Roleplay. My name's Will, and I'm a Starfinder sex icon. Today we're going to be talking about Starfinder. This isn't a review. I won't call this a review because reviews make me think of school and social care government budgets. So this is going to be a Is It Worth It? In another one of my famous Is It Worth It series. So let's get into it. I should mention I've had Starfinder for a little over a month now, maybe a little bit longer than that. If you've no idea what Starfinder is, it's a D20 based role-playing game system. And it's based on Pathfinder, but in space, millions of years in the future. The core rulebook is over 500 pages long and retails for $60 for a hardback and $10 for a PDF. That's fucking amazing. $10 for a PDF. I wish some other companies had some very cheap PDFs that weren't just digital online content that were trying to rip you off buying it twice. It comes with 7 races and classes in the core book that pretty much cover all of your bases when it comes to sci-fi, alien creatures and androids. And the classes are quite fantastic as well, ranging from the classic warrior archetypes to the space wizard archetypes, which is perhaps my favorite thing about Starfinder. Now, I should note that I'm not a huge Pathfinder player whatsoever. I have a very loose understanding of how to play Pathfinder. However, I've been reading a lot of Starfinder recently, so I imagine some of those skills translate. I should also note that I'm not the hugest sci-fi fan when it comes to role-playing games, and in general, I tend to think of myself more as a fantasy person. That being said, I have very much enjoyed Starfinder thus far. Now, if you're coming from a game such as D&D 5th edition, as myself, then there's something you should be aware of, that Pathfinder and, of course, Starfinder are both more crunchy games, and by that I mean that they're more rules-heavy. They rely on a lot more text when it comes to rules, and a fair amount more of math as well than D&D 5th edition, which is considered to be quite a streamlined game. If you're coming straight from Pathfinder, though, as I imagine a lot of you guys probably are, you're going to fit in very seamlessly with Starfinder. A lot of these things are going to immediately click with you and make sense, but if maybe you're a new player, you're looking to get into a game, then you should be aware that you're going to have to be doing a fair amount of reading in this game. I mean, there are 528 pages to this core rulebook, and it ain't all pretty pictures. More on the pretty pictures later, though. More than just races and classes, though, Starfinder comes with a plethora of rules for Starship Combat, and indeed just starships in general. And to me, if there's anything to get excited about when it comes to space, it's fucking big starships. And Starfinder does have, perhaps better than any other role-playing game that I've seen. Now, comparing this to all of RPGs, it really gets down to the nuts and bolts of these ships. And if you've ever played a game like Rogue Trader, which is perhaps the closest experience I've had in role-playing games with this, it's fantastic feeling. It really is just great. And I love the idea, and always have loved the idea, of a crew on a ship, exploring new worlds. It's the Mass Effect feeling. And one thing that Starfinder does, perhaps better than a lot of games that I've played, is create the feeling of a gigantic universe. In almost every way, Starfinder is big. It goes big on rules, it goes big on artwork, it goes big on ships, and it goes big on the universe as well. Now, if you guys are big Pathfinder fans, there's going to be some treats in here for you guys as well. A couple of my big Pathfinder buddies who are really, really into Pathfinder have told me a couple of things that they're totally geeking out about, you know, how magic has come into the universe, and a couple of nods to some favorite gods and characters that exist in Starfinder, or at least nodded to. So there's definitely going to be some nice treats in there for you. I could talk a lot about the rules and mechanics of Starfinder. As I mentioned, there's a lot to go into. However, we're going to be doing that in a couple of other video series, which we take a look at individual races, classes, and of course, some of the mechanics and rules in that Starship Combat that I mentioned before. One thing that I do want to touch on briefly, though, is the spells in Starfinder. Now, you might think, but Will, how are there spells in Starfinder? It's a sci-fi game. Well, yeah, there are. I think that's one of the most unique things about this setting, is that it's not just about blasters and spaceships, it's also about magic users as well. And that seems to seamlessly fit into the game for me, and is an element that I really enjoyed. I really think it adds another mechanic to what can feel a bit like a bland sci-fi world, right? You know, there are guns, there are troopers, there are aliens, but wait, there's magic. You know, it's an extra element in there that I think Starfinder does very well, and actually leads to some more interest for the players as well, because I've played in some sci-fi games before, and sometimes you can get kind of bogged down into the world of, well, you just shoot the guy, right? In Starfinder, there's a million things you can do because you have this huge spell list, very much like in Pathfinder. And much like Pathfinder, Starfinder offers a huge amount of versatility for the players. It could definitely be argued that for Pathfinder, there are maybe too many source books. There's so many player options, and a lot of people get some enjoyment out of breaking the rules and breaking the game. I think in its current format, and of course, you know, I have not played this game extensively at this point. I've played 10 to 12 sessions off stream. That it's in a good place. It offers a huge amount of versatility to the players who are, you know, making characters, and it offers a lot for the DM as well. The chapter on game mastering, which includes traps and afflictions, is one of my favorites, and it really gives some crunch to the dungeon master. Now, a lot of these things I've been saying, I've been phrasing as positives, right? There's a lot of crunch. However, if you're the kind of player who likes their game's rules light, or perhaps more narratively driven, then you're going to have to do some editing with Starfinder. By no means does this mean that you will not enjoy Starfinder. However, you might play it a little bit how we played it on the Starfinder premiere reveal. When we were doing that show, one of the things we focused on is we want to push forward the story, we want to make something happen. What can be quite easy to do with Starfinder, and, you know, with Pathfinder, is get bogged down in a lot of rules. That's partly because we didn't know all of the rules. It's, you know, it's one of those janky first sessions where you're, do I roll a d20 plus 5? Oh, shit. So there was a certain amount of that, right? But I think that if you're looking to play a more narratively run game, then you definitely can do. You're just gonna have to ignore some of the rules, and that's, you know, what I do with a lot of role-playing games. If you and your group like playing a certain way, then Starfinder has the versatility to be played in a very easy way. However, if you guys really like the crunch, you love the rules, you love making characters with a lot of options, then Starfinder is going to be potentially perfect for you. The artwork of Starfinder is phenomenal. I don't think we expect anything less from Paizo, and indeed a lot of role-playing games that are publishing books these days have just got some beautiful artwork in, and this is no different. You know, it offers some fantastic vistas, a great amount of detail, and I'm no artist, but I think it looks fucking pretty. Now, I know I haven't got into too many details, and as I mentioned, I want to go into these in much more detail in individual videos, and if you subscribe to the channel, then you'll be able to see plenty of those coming in the next couple of days, next few weeks, and we're going to take a quite comprehensive look at Starfinder, because for me, it's really intrigued me, it's interested me, and it's not often I find new role-playing games do that too much, so credit to the guys over at Paizo for making a fun role-playing game, and the answer to, is it worth it? Then fuck yeah, I mean, it's $9.99 for a PDF, and it's got 500 pages, right? Over 500 pages. That is some incredible value. We've got $60 for the core rulebook. That's some great fucking value right there as well. And I'm sure, you know, you can pick these things up on Amazon after launch. They tend to get a little bit cheaper. So, you know, in a year or two time, I can imagine that these will be, you know, pretty darn cheap. So to break it down, if you like sci-fi games, you're certainly going to like Starfinder. If you like crunchy games, then you're going to enjoy it as well. So to break things down a little bit, I think Starfinder is going to be a great game. I think it's going to be interesting. It's going to include a lot of crunch, a lot of rules, which at times can bog you down, but, you know, I've always been a kind of player where if I don't like a rule, I just don't use it at my table. The artwork of Starfinder is phenomenal. I mean, I don't think we expect any less. I'll definitely be playing more Starfinder, and that's usually the sign of whether or not a role-playing game is worth it for me. You guys can, of course, make your own minds up and let me know down in the comments below what you think of Starfinder, and, of course, any questions that you have about it, because we can answer them down there for you guys. Like I mentioned, there's going to be a lot of videos on Starfinder coming out, so prepare yourselves for that, my friends, and if you enjoy the channel, subscribe,